I am going to say this one final time, because it is very frustrating that this is continuing to happen, and players simply still are not learning. Heed this as your final warning, and if you regret it afterwards, it is 100% on you. 100% your fault, and I will have no sympathy for you. So, something was added into the changelog, a few things. I am simply going to focus on the aspect of this, petal changes. This makes web and pincer actually good petals now, and while they weren't bad petals before, they are better now, at least for the time being. Now players have a bad habit of trading the so-called bad petals for a coin. It may work if it's a low tier petal to trade for a mediocre petal like coin, but if it's a mediocre petal and trading for another mediocre petal, all I have to ask is why? Even if the petal is currently trash, why would you do it? You never know, and I say this a lot, you never know if it will get buffed. Just like you will never know if a petal will get nerfed. And even if it does get nerfed, that doesn't mean you should trade it for a coin, because it can still get buffed slightly, or even tweaked later. Do you remember the whole thing around Super Air? Yeah, a lot of you wanted me to absorb it. Many comments that I have received wanted me to absorb Super Air, and I refused. I refused on the premise that you will never know if it will get buffed in some way. And it did. There is a use for it. So I simply cannot understand why many players just decide to randomly trade their either new or old crafted petals for a coin. When will you learn? I know this is easier said than done, believe me, I would know, but maybe you should try and grind for damaged petals instead of going for coin, because later on you will regret the choice you made. I have seen players trade a duplicate iris, although this was at the time when uniques didn't exist and privet berry didn't exist. Still, you never know when new things could get added. Actually, in fact, do you remember when iris was a low tier petal? It was literally terrible. Now look at it, it's basically one of the strongest petals in the game. And now with uniques added, yeah, I reckon the people that had duplicate iris are so regretting it right now. This is why I personally will only trade for a coin if I absolutely do not want it. Antennae, for example. I still have over 270 ultra antennae. I'm not crafting them, but if I do, I don't want antennae. However, I am keeping them just in case. You never know. Again, you never know. I am preparing for the future. You see? I swear a lot of y'all are not smart in this game at all. You just like to go for the instant gratification of crafting a petal and then realise it's the wrong choice, and then you decide to trade it for a coin. You fools! I will say this though, at least it's not as bad as those that craft a coin, but at the same time, it's probably for the better, even though I don't agree with that, simply because that coin craft could have been, I don't know, a bone craft, an beta leg craft, a wing craft, basically anything better than coin. Why do a lot of these players love coin? Do they really love capitalism so much? They love it so much that they decide to trade a super magnet and a super magic missile for 2 super coins. Yeah, you know who you are. I will not name names, but they know who they are. They are probably watching this right now. And I will take this opportunity to say, you are an idiot! Now what about those that do trade coin for a good reason? Maybe they're fighting for unique coin, but at least at that point they would be farming for weaker petals, like privet, salt, yucca, things that they don't really want. That is different. That's a good reason, especially if they're contenders for it. Next are those who actually quit and never return, out of their own choice. Not those players that quit for, say, 6 months and then return, and before they quit they decide to trade everything. Yeah, I'm sure they regret it. And for a lot of players that is the case. Why not just leave it dormant, without trading anything? Then you can come back and pick up where you left off. Then there's those, like myself, who 100% do not want a specific petal. I don't want antennae. Some players might not want salt, some players might not want privet, yucca. They might not even want wing. Who knows? I am not talking about those players. In fact, I have never talked about those players. Those players who do it on an impulse. Those players who also don't see the value of the certain petal that they crafted. I have always said I will make use for any super I craft. And if I can't make a use for it, I'm still going to keep it, because it could be changed. Salt in the future could be tweaked again, and that's arguably one of the worst petals right now. So bad that I refuse to craft them, and it's led me here. The moral of the story here is, do not trade any petal unless you are absolutely 100-200% sure. And if you regret it, I am not going to have any sympathy for you. You have been warned for the final time.